So, if you have heard our previous episode, you know that in the last episode we covered 6 rules from the book 12 Rules of Life by Jordan Peterson. And in this one, we are going to talk about the remaining 6. So, without wasting any time, let's get on it. So, in the last episode, we talked about 6 rules. And after recording, I got pretty confused that I actually recorded 6 or 5. Yeah, but I talked about 6 rules. And so, in this episode, we are going to start from the seventh one. Before moving on to the seventh rule, if you haven't heard the previous episode, I would like to tell you why you should hear this episode instead of going and reading the book. The reason is if you pick up that book, you will probably read the 12 rules and leave, and which is a really bad thing because the substance of the book relies on the way it explains those rules and not the explanation, and the story and the substance behind it is really important. And the whole purpose of this episode is to get you excited about that and give my opinion. I wouldn't say really opinion, but my perspective on it and what I took from those rules and its explanation. So let's get rolling to the seventh rule. Pursue what is meaningful, not what is expedient. So let's first see what does the word expedient mean, because before reading this book I didn't know. So expedient means an action which is convenient or helpful for a purpose, but not particularly a purpose that has high morale. In the last episode, I talked about going with the flow and pursuing something. This rule really covers both of them. So, the first part of the rule says do something meaningful. And I have heard some Jordan Peterson lectures, and the way he describes pursuing something that is greater than us or something that is meaningful, he uses the great story of Pinocchio. And if you have heard of Pinocchio's story, then you know that creator of Pinocchio, Geppetto, that he looks at the shining star and asks for his puppet to be real. And this sounds pretty childish, and when I watched this when I was a child, it was one of the best stories I heard. But the way he explains it, he says Geppetto looks up in the sky to something that is greater than him and asks for something meaningful or something good. Bringing a life in this world is a good thing. Making a creation is a good thing. And he manifests all his hard work and creation into that wish, and that's why it comes true. And the puppet Pinocchio comes to life. And that was a pretty good new perspective on the childhood story Pinocchio. And now the question arises that what actually being meaningful means. For me, a meaningful purpose would be something that would help this world make a better place, to create something that would actually provide value to people or to provide services that would help people. But when we talk about like a meaningful purpose, we always think that to do that we have to do it for free. And that's not the case actually. If you do something or sell a product, you have, and if you get a right price of it, it's fair, it's capitalism. Because I have seen many people like something meaningful means it has to be ultimate, like charity, but I don't think that's the case. So let's see the second part of this rule, which says you shouldn't be expedient. So if you do something that is expedient and is not for a good cause, then you are basically in the negative. And this is also one more thing that I learned from Jordan Peterson, that he says if you do nothing, then you will ultimately suffer, because there is suffering around us. So you have to do something to deal with that suffering. And if you do nothing, you are in the negative. And on plus that, if you are doing something expedient that doesn't make you happy, or I don't think that happiness matter here much, because if you do something that is out of moral, that's the worst possible way, I would say, to live a life. But if you are a part of something and you are part of a good mission and you are providing value to the world, then that's the best way to move forward, something greater than you. And even if your goal is to just provide your family, that's enough. You are moving to something greater than you. But then you have to choose right means to do the things. And this decision making of moral act from our values that we learn all throughout our life. And so that's all I have to say about this rule. So let's move on to the next one. Tell the truth, or at least don't lie. This is the eighth rule that we have in the book. And I have personally trying to do it, because we actually, of course, white lie all the time. And even sometimes we lie to just make people happy. And it's not like we don't know that lying is a bad thing, we just do it. But I have been trying to do something about it and try not to lie, but it doesn't always work out. Sometimes things go pretty south when you speak the truth. And I think that you should have enough courage and enough ability to handle whatever the truth is that is coming to you, whatever it is, that you should have enough strength. And it takes a long way to accept the whole truth. Anything, even a bad truth, it takes a lot of time to absorb that. And sometimes we even lie to ourselves, and we do that more often than we do it to people. We just keep on lying that, oh no, I don't need to work on that project, oh, I will do it later, there is much time, even when we know that it is important and it is need to be done. It's just we do it. And that's called procrastination. I think this rule will be the hardest to apply, and it couldn't be done like in a day that you decide that I wouldn't lie anymore and it would happen. But you have to decide sometimes. So maybe decide now. Decide now that you wouldn't lie anymore. And if you want to get started, you can tell someone the truth that you lied about earlier. You just need to accept it and have the ability to handle it. And it's pretty hard, I know that. But we just have to keep going on the path of truth, I think, to do the right thing. But now there would be an argument in your head that, but why? Sometimes lying is good, it doesn't hurt people's feeling. So I think things which are use now and pay later kind of system are pretty bad, because when the bill comes of the things, it's pretty huge amount. If you speak the truth, whatever you may lose, but you earn the respect. And if you lie, you lose the respect, and whatever maybe you earn, it will go away eventually. Everything here would go away eventually, but respect, that matters, I think. So that's all about the eighth rule. And the ninth rule says assume whoever you are listening to knows something that you don't. And when I read this rule, I actually go back to the Joe Rogan podcast, because it is so long, like 3 hours listening a podcast. That is tough. Like that takes a lot of time. And sometimes may know much of the information, that you would have all the information that you need on that topic, and then I would get a kind of bored in that podcast and I would skip and go ahead. And I used to do that a lot, but one day what happened, I actually skipped a lot of the video that I was watching on the Joe Rogan podcast, and afterwards I took it back to hear something that I missed out, and then I realized what I was doing. I was just skipping it because I don't want to hear it. And for that particular episode, the reason was that it was a kind of a boring topic. But there can be so many reasons that you don't want to hear something, like you are not ready, or you have a ego that says that no, I know everything about this topic. But there is always a gap to fill in knowledge. And also, the Joe Rogan directory of episode is so long that it was hard to pick up. And then I would be really picky, and I would only listen to some of the episode and some I would skip. And that's fair. But then I thought, why would I skip some of them? Are they not interesting people? Or I don't like the topic? What was the case? And then I saw it that I actually thought that I was smarter than all of them. Yeah, on Joe Rogan show there are many comedians and all. So I would say, oh, comedians, so it must be like a joke full of episode. So let's skip this one. But those episodes are actually the best one after you hear them. Like one time on Jim Ferris podcast, I heard an episode with Jamie Foxx and Tim Ferriss. It was good. It was really good. And I don't usually listen to celebrities episode or comedians episode, but that one was good. And that changed my perspective a little bit of how I look at content, at the world and myself. But I just want to say that if you start listening to people very, very carefully, they always have something nice to say. Always. And I know there are some people in your life that would be so terrible that they don't have a single thing that you will need. But maybe, maybe just give it a shot if you have time. And you don't have to listen to everyone. And I don't listen to every episode on any podcast. I just listen to what I like or the topics I like. But it's worth giving a shot. Just don't skip around because you are egoistic and you think you are better. So, from this, we actually understand that usually listening to someone is more of a ego problem than the perspective problem or bad knowledge problem. So, just listen. And this next rule is exactly what I needed. And it is be precise in your speech. I think in this modern world our speech is one of the weapon that we have. We can really use it as a weapon now thanks to social media. But you don't take a weapon and go poke everyone. If you listen to the earlier episodes of the podcast, I would used to be nervous sitting here and recording. And I am still so nervous that if you see me recording, you will give me water and say, bro, drink it, bro, don't calm down, bro. And it's not like I'm not good at speaking or I'm not good at podcasting, but it actually happens because I'm not precise with my speech. When I actually scripted the episode that I created, I would be a much better episode. But after some time, I stopped creating scripts because it was like reading a book to you. So it wasn't fun. So to add some emotion and content, I stopped scripting completely, and that was a hard turn. And it also brought a lot of emotion to the episodes, but I saw that I wasn't as much as precise that I would be, and so I'm much more nervous. So then I got onto the middle road and started writing bullet points. And now, while writing these bullet points, I actually think of all the things that I have to say with this bullet point and just try to remember them. Then things get pretty easier and precise, and as well as there is an emotion as I'm thinking and talking. But being good with your speech is a really, really powerful weapon that you can wield. And it does not mean that every time what we say have to be right or have to be in the correct form. We are working on the correct form always. And if we only say what is in the correct form, then we wouldn't be able to have conversation. So, being better at speech actually means to learn the better form of saying things, and the better form is actually different for everything, literally everything. And it also depends on you are communicating to. If you are communicating to a large audience on a stage, it would be different. But if you are recording on a microphone, it would be completely different. So, being good at speech, bonus points. The last two rules in this book are my favorite. The 11th rule is do not bother children while they are skateboarding. And you might be thinking, that's interesting. What would that teach me? And it again now goes back to parenting. So, in this chapter, Jordan Peterson actually talks about parent preventing and sheltering their child from dangerous activities, and which is a pretty important task, but you should open up and let the child have some little bit of danger. And it's important to keep your child safe, but it's also important to let children have their bit of excitement and bit of dangerous activities. Like skateboarding is a dangerous activity. You may fall, you may get hurt, and any parent would shelter their children from that. But it would kind of make the children's weak. Kind of, not always. But as I am no expert on parenting, I would not give any comment on this. But I do think a bit of excitement and a bit of safety and balancing them both, like chaos and order and being at line, it's important. You should honestly go and read this chapter in the book. It very clearly explains why you should do that and what are benefits of it and even the downsides. And I actually had bullet points for the 12th rule, but now that I think about it, I would not tell you the 12th rule. You go and research about it yourself. Search it, read the remaining chapters, read all the chapters that are in the book. This would keep that enthusiastic soul of yours on the rise, and you might find something very helpful in that book. So, by deceiving you and not telling you the 12th rule, I would like to end this episode. And honestly, I would like to tell you the 12th rule, but I think that it's much better this way. So, I hope with the help of this episodes that you are excited enough to read the book 12 Rules of Life. And if you are, I have achieved my goal. Thank you for that. In the next episode, we will talk about something little more interesting, and I have a couple of ideas about it, but I haven't worked on it. So the next episode would be coming on 17th of the October, which is a Monday. So I have a week to work on those ideas and create an episode. And I am telling you, the next Monday's episode would be even better. So, in the end of this episode, I would like to say keep learning, be enthusiastic, and go find the 12th rule. I will see you in the next one. Till then, peace out.